that was silly, ridiculous, a waste of time. They didn't want. That's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
Made a living in very dangerous.
This is really an integrated blue together.
Dianne Andrews in black and white.
Hello, this is Fuji Totes. I just found out Fuji could not come in with me, so I'm making a little video for you to see how the pillow works with the doggy in it. As you see, Fuji's in here, in the bottom of this. At the end, after I take him out, I'm going to take all the things that are in here with him that you need on a trip, or whether you're just going, for an afternoon, everything you need to take the dog. I have driven all the way to Las Vegas, Nevada, and taken Fuji and my other dog, my multiple, with me with their meds, their leashes, their water, cup, and whatever, in one pack, a couple of packs of food are in the bottom of this. By the way, I even have a COVID test. If you think your dog has COVID, it's in the bottom here that you can carry. And I'm going to show you, even with all that in the bottom, he can still lay here and feel nothing. You see him sitting down on it. He can still do that with all the things in there. And I'll show you what was in there. He had a Play-Doh. He had the COVID test, as I laughed about. He had a heavy leash. He has a water bottle. He has some food. And another leash. This pillow only weighs about 3 pounds. So whatever you need in your necessities are for your dog can go in here, along with the dog as you carry him wherever you want to go. To the park. And I'll tell you, sometimes I use this to put things as I go outside. So this is Fuji's Totes. And they are patented. Now, I'm going to show you in the presentation the large pillow. All of these are multifunctional pillows that can be used for cover-ups, for totes, for luggage. And I'm going to tell you the story how I started Fuji Totes. Fuji was, but anyway, I'll say that personally to you. I don't have to tell you all that now. Thank you.
Thank you for viewing us here at Dianne Andrews in black and white. Whether you're watching us on your big screen, on your small screen, or on your intermediate screen. Where you DVR'd us on Sundays, we come on the CW, which you'll see on the screen, and you'll see all our handles, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Truth, Getter, you name them, and we're there. We're on all of them, LinkedIn. So be sure to watch us when you catch us on the go, wherever you're going. One thing we do at Dianne Andrews in black and white for the last 9 years is try to tell you some subjects that you don't really want to talk about, but we want to tell you things that you need to know. And that's why I bring in experts in their fields on things you need to know. I think most people will be surprised that EVs or electric vehicles emit far more pollutants into the air. They're called particles. You can look that up. From their tires, because the EV is about 30% heavier than a regular American-made or German-made car. So the tires are emitting more particles into the air, which are pollutants into the air. And I also think it's something with the brakes that they call it brake dust. But we'll talk to the expert who will really know. I have 2 people with me today from the Oil and Gas Workers Association, and then I have our Louisiana Dealer of the Year with me. So come on back and let's find out what particles really are. Because a year ago I didn't know what they were either, but I know now about EVs versus our gas-guzzling cars, which are not really gas-guzzling, emitting pollutants into the air. Come on back to Dianne Andrews in black and white. Thanks for coming back to us today, and I think it'll be worth your time. I think you'll learn a lot here. I had mentioned I have 2 guests with me. To my right is the oil and gas person, and to my left is Eric Lane, the president of Gerry Lane Enterprises and the dealer of the year for the state of Louisiana. Now he competes for the nation. Thanks for being with us today, Eric, out of your busy schedule, taking the time. Let's start off talking about EVs, electric vehicles, and how much heavier they are than our cars.
Yes.
And what I read that study was done in 2020, but they didn't really let it be common knowledge that it's 1,000 times worse. And then they went back and redid it and said that the emission pollutants are 1,850 times worse than American cars. So what do you call the traditional car? Fossil fuel cars? Or
They call it ICE, which is internal combustion engines.
Okay.
We just call them ICE for short.
Okay, the ICE cars. I was flabbergasted when we did the show in September, and you said when the EV goes out of charge, you have to get this big equipment. What do you call them? The Caterpillar things?
We have to have forklifts.
Forklifts.
You have to move them around because when they're out, they're out.
And what would that do to our power grid? It's already in danger. If everybody went to EVs, as Joe Biden is trying to make us do, but I don't know now, he just put 100% tariff on EVs that China was getting ready to make in Mexico. They're building the biggest plant in the world for EVs. And he put 100% tariff. It'll probably come off if he wins. And by December, it'll be off of China. They say China's pretty pissed with him.
Well, he took a lot of tariffs off after Trump went out of office.
Right.
That Trump had put in place.
Right, on that. That
Yes.
made it worse for us in America, just like he did the border. It was like over 100, I was reading, I had no idea Trump did that many executive orders. It was over 100 just regarding immigration,
Yes.
what Trump wrote. So tell us, what do you think, being an oil and gas guy who worked in the fields over in Midland, Odessa, in that area, do they call it the Dust Bowl? Is that part of the Dust Bowl?
Well, it is now. Permian Basin.
Okay.
Yeah, the Dust Bowl. What do I think of Joe Biden?
No, about.
What do I think? Is that what you're asking me? Because I would love
you
to
can
talk
tell me
about
what
that.
you think, but make it quick. That's too long a subject for you to tell. No, about what's going on with oil and gas now and the LNG pause that you all are suing about. Tell
Well,
me
that's
about
a
that.
great issue to talk about. Just last week, the Pelican Institute filed a lawsuit on our behalf against Joe Biden as the named defendant over his pause on LNG export approvals. That decision really hurts the economies of Louisiana and Texas especially.
Oklahoma too, doesn't it? Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
certainly. And by extension, it hurts every single American.
Right. But now, when Trump left office, or while he was still in office, he was trying to get Germany. He told her, what was her name, Merkel over there in Germany, who was like this with Obama. And now, last winter, the people were like burning down, cutting down all their trees and burning old furniture to warm themselves because green energy did not work. In Germany, they swallowed the pill. They drank the water. And they ended up with a terrible, terrible system in Germany as far as green energy, which is what seems to be going on here, trying to lead us down. But we're maybe a little smarter than the Germans here in America, I hope. And a lot of people are seeing what Joe Biden and his compatriots are doing to this country. And that's only one thing. Don't get me on the border. I'll have to do another show on that, not with you guys, with some other people, but on the border.
No, but you make a good point about how Americans all Americans, regardless of race, education level, what states they live in, how we've voted in the past. A lot of Americans of all different backgrounds are starting to see that Joe Biden's policies, they hurt all Americans.
You know what? I wish I could say that, but white suburban women, black women don't see it. I talked to I've had a lot of friends come and talk to me, black friends, about they saw what's happening. But many more still are with the Democratic Party and are voting. One of them, I made a mistake and sent her something about Trump. And she called me and said, Dianne, I know you didn't send this to me. She said, I can't stand the man. I don't want to hear anything about him or see anything. I said, well, how are you going to ever know the truth? And we've been friends since college. So how we stay friends is to keep it. I lost so many friends being a conservative. Because, the conservative or the Republicans for sure have not done a good job in recruiting black people into this. Donald Trump made me a Republican. Republicans didn't make me a Republican. Donald Trump. And a lot of people see who Donald Trump is. We have faith in Donald Trump. I don't think Bush is the Republican Party. McConnell is the Republican Party. That ain't not going to make anybody change from a Democrat to a Republican, right?
I don't know, but I haven't really, I understand your experiences with it. I don't know because I haven't polled a lot of those groups that you've talked about.
You remember Biden's, I'm going to say this, his statement? The Latinos are much more diverse than the black community. You don't remember this on the black show?
Yes.
And he said, blacks, if you don't vote for me, you aren't black, because blacks always vote for Democrats. And that's true, pretty much. Obama got 97% of the black vote.
I think more and more black people, Hispanic people, are voting conservative. I talked with Justice
Well,
Eva.
Hispanics for sure, Hispanics.
Sure.
Black men are. That's who Trump is getting. The 25% they're expecting him to get now, 12% the last time, were not the women.
Well,
the
whenever
women
we-
only moved 2%. The men are about 40% now for Donald Trump.
And whenever
Black men.
Eric talks about electric vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever we talk about oil and gas jobs, Americans want good paying jobs so they can support their own families. They want good, safe communities,
Right.
and good
Just like everybody
schools,
else.
and they don't want mandated vehicles that cost them more than
No,
an
yeah, they're
internal
not for
combustion
that.
engine.
But I can tell you, neither are they for late-term abortions. But they don't switch from the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris said, let's have them 7th, 8th, 9th month, the day they delivered, and maybe the day after. So, but she's now saying she didn't say that. In fact, I did a show a couple of weeks ago, and I found the article. It took forever to find that article because what she's saying now is, I don't believe in late-term abortions. But I found an article from National Review in 2020 where she said, we believe in abortions at every stage. So then let's talk about what does that, the liquefied natural gas, Trump was trying to sell her liquefied natural gas. He was trying to send that to Germany. He told them to stop depending on Russia, and they didn't listen, and that's what I was saying earlier. Look what happened.
Certainly, and then if we look at the war in Ukraine, which is really just a proxy war between the United States and China,
Right.
what we have is the European countries are dependent upon Russian natural gas in
Right.
order to heat their homes. And so
Right.
whenever you talk about reliance upon these green energy fantasies, and people having
No, I
to
didn't say
burn
we
everything
rely on
in
them.
their
They want
house.
us. I never said, no, we don't rely on them. He wants us to rely on them.
Certainly.
It's not that big now, like cars. Electric cars are not big, are
No.
they? I remember in September we talked about that. We spend a lot of big money on on it, but we don't really have a lot to show for it, do we, Eric?
No,
Cars.
each of my dealerships has had to spend $250,000 per store to get ready for the electric cars with training, equipment, charging stations, and all those things. I'm selling about 4 a month,
And that's been for what?
and I'm
3
making
years,
I'm making
4
probably
years?
$200 or $300 a car.
You
So
make $1,200.
so figure how much it's going to cost. It's going to take me to get my money back
Yeah.
if I ever
You'll
do.
be long gone.
If I ever do.
You won't get your money back.
Talking about 250 months. We're talking about 10 years or probably about 15.
Oh, more than that. He's making nothing. $1,200 a month. He spent $250,000.
Yes.
So, but people, I think, because of what has come out from, it was some this was electrical analytics, I think, or some name of some company. It was in Europe, I think, that first did that study in 2020. And they told them, go back. And I think you're wrong. All the green energy people thought, oh, the 1,000 got to be more. They probably tried to pay them off, but they wouldn't. They came back and said in 22, it's 1,850 times more pollutants by the EVs versus.
Well, it's not just the pollutants.
Mm-hmm.
It takes 250 tons of mining to create one EV battery.
Rare earth minerals.
Rare earth minerals.
That's right,
250 tons.
It's terrible.
So
And you know who owns it all? We need to let the people know.
We know.
China.
China.
They bought it up all over the world.
But Eric Bradshaw, who was one of the Cadillac people, spoke at a meeting I was at 3 weeks ago, and he finally gave me the reasons why GM is going with EV and other companies are. Is because we're involved, and must be the treaty. It's got to be something like the Paris Accord. I don't know what it is, but until 2032, all manufacturers are locked in to have to comply with all the tailpipe emissions and all those kind of things. That's why they're pushing toward EV, because no matter who is president, it won't matter. They can't do anything about it until 2032.
So Trump can't really
No,
fix it.
Trump can't fix it. This is something that was mandated in the treaty or whatever it was we signed on to. We have to comply with this, whatever this is, until 2032.
Has that happened under Biden, this treaty?
I'm
Or
not
whatever
sure.
it
I'm
is?
not sure. It might have been back to Obama. I'm not sure. But he was basically explaining that's why they have had to build EV cars is to comply with this treaty till 2032. Now, once 2032 hits, then we can make changes.
Yeah, but if like the 100%, if Biden or whoever's in office, we hopefully Trump, allows China to build that plant down in Mexico or to sell. They're looking to sell to us. And if we don't put tariffs on them, they'll put GM out of business. They'll definitely put their EV market out of business. And that's what Trump was saying. Remember when he used the term bloodbath about 3 weeks ago? He was talking about General Motors and all the cars in Detroit. He said Detroit is going to have a bloodbath when all these Chinese EVs come into this country.
No, because people don't want EVs.
They don't. But that's why Biden put that tariff on it. Because let me tell you, I have a friend of mine, Tesla. He has a Tesla out in Seattle. And he said they basically gave him the car. Our government is giving them all kind of bonuses and stipends and all kind of things to buy the cars.
Well, what Eric Bradshaw explained to us is that the people who are buying EVs are the ones that bought an EV before. 75% of people who buy an EV will buy another one.
Mm-hmm. This was his first. He bought it, he told me, because of the money.
So we have people that have bought a Tesla first, are trading in Teslas on our Cadillac Lyriq electric car. Mm-hmm. You're not switching people from ICE to EV as much as you are taking EV buyers and putting them in the next EV. That's what GM's trying to do, is trying to take the people who have bought an EV before and give them a choice with General Motors to get an EV.
Okay.
And that's what it's about, and that's what we're seeing. But now, here's the deal, and I didn't know this, but GM now has the capability at each plant to be flexible to switch from EV to hybrid to ICE vehicles at the same plant based on demand.
Now that's wonderful.
Based on demand. So now we'll be able to, whatever the public wants, we can switch at the same plant.
Wow, that's amazing.
Isn't
So
that
they don't have
amazing?
to close the plants
No.
down. That's wonderful. People will not lose their jobs.
Correct.
That's the important thing. But I still think it's going to be the fossil fuel car, the ICE car. I don't think it's still, you're selling 3 or 4, and I don't think you're any different than most dealers around this country.
And GM said at the last meeting, they know their bread and butter is the ICE vehicle. But they want to have an EV to offer people, because every EV that they produce helps reduce the emissions to get them to that 50% reduction goal they have to have by 2032. Each EV gets them 50% credit closer to that, because what happens every year till 2032, each manufacturer that doesn't meet the requirements is penalized, and the penalty goes to the manufacturer who is meeting the standards.
So he gets all of their money
So
too.
they take money away from the ones that aren't meeting it and give it to ones that are meeting it.
So that's a lot of competition, and most
That's
people
correct.
want to meet it. They're creating
That's right.
competition.
You don't want to give money to your competition.
That's right.
And that's basically why the EVs are being pushed right now, is to get to 2032.
Yeah. When my friend just happened, that was the first one he got. And he knew, because I sure hate him, and he was telling me, I got it because they almost gave it to me, Diane.
Well, yeah, they did. I mean, we still have the $7,500 credit that you get on the EV. That's like a rebate.
And I think in Seattle, this guy, they had even more than that. They gave him more than just the $7,500. You know, it's Seattle. It's Washington State.
Correct.
Where you don't need an ID to vote, just like Nevada and California. So what do you expect? But so what is going on with the lawsuit? Okay, they're upset because the LNG has been paused, right? How did it's a terminal, right? The liquefied natural gas terminals, did I read? Or
Sure.
Did I read
you can
that
call
wrong?
it a terminal, you can call it a hub, you can call it an export facility, plant, whatever you want to. There are a lot of different terms that are used. So the Calcasieu Pass 2 is really the one that's on hold. Right now there's a huge project going on in Plaquemines Parish, and that is employing about 6,000 workers.
Wow.
That's great for
A lot
the
of
economy.
people, yeah.
Yeah, it's great for the economy and producing our natural resources that God has blessed our state and other states with, and being able
Isn't
to.
this country the #1 natural gas in the world? Russia has the #1 reserves, but America's the #1 production of natural gas, I just read, in the world.
And just this week, Russia and China announced that they're working on a natural gas pipeline. And so what's happening is that we're
Where's that
losing.
pipeline going from to? China?
From Russia to China.
China, right, yeah.
Yes. And so right now, we're funding and losing both sides of the proxy war in Ukraine.
One thing Donald Trump had done, he had kind of made people come together, to me, and kind of start looking at what's really going on. This administration, Russia has never been as close as they have been to China before, ever. right? Iran is meeting with China. That has never happened before, I don't think, that the Ayatollah or his people,
Well, yeah,
that just got
the
killed.
axis of evils has been around for a while.
Right, Bush called him that, but he didn't do anything about it, did he?
Not what he should have.
Yeah, he should have. He didn't do anything about the axis of evil. It took a guy like Donald Trump, who's he's a negotiator, he's a marketeer, and he's very, very smart. People laughed at him, but he's probably been one of the most brilliant presidents I think we've ever had. The Jordan Accords, or whatever they named them. The Abraham Accords, and Jordan and all those countries were involved in the Middle East. And Saudi was about to come in.
Well, when you mention the Abraham Accords, also a lot of the environmental stuff comes from the Paris Climate Agreement, and
That's what you're talking about.
President Trump withdrew us from the Paris Climate Agreement the first time he was in office,
right.
and in fact, I'm hopeful that when he's reelected, we'll be able to do it again, because what we get from that is a bunch of really nonsensical environmental mandates.
And we're funding, what, 70% of it?
That's
Yes.
it.
I mean, the
Always.
cost,
That's it.
we're bearing all the costs. Nobody else, everybody else has got a free ride.
That's right. It's
Not
like
to
the-
mention
the
that
World
it's-
Health Organization got us out of that. We're back. We fund all that. The United Nations, we fund all that. Trump got us out of all that stuff.
Not to mention that it's a treaty that was not ratified by Congress, and thus really is unconstitutional.
But we do a lot. Even with the immigration, the remain in Mexico, and it went up to the Supreme Court, they said that it should be put back, the remain in Mexico. I interviewed a guy who was in the remain in Mexico 2 years. I had a translator here. It's a hell of a show. Talking about Cuba. He was really an asylum seeker, and it took him 2 years to find out, under Trump, the remain in Mexico. And he came into America, and he loves America, loves Trump, because people in Cuba are trying to get out of communism, Marxism, socialism, whatever you want to call it. But Cuba now is called the Cuban Communist Party. It is not socialist. And he talked about that on the show. I did a couple of shows with him. And it's very eye-opening to see how they really live over there, because what the tourists see is not how they live.
But
The hospitals are different. The hotels are different. The restaurants are different. Everything is different for the tourists.
Well, and I think that's why more Americans of all colors, black, white, brown, whatever, are understanding that we need to pull together as a country, because the communism isn't just something in Cuba, it's in China. And so whenever people, we all have a strong belief in God and strong family units.
You mean
and
us sitting up here, don't you? You don't mean all of America.
No, I don't mean all of America, but I think most people on a basic level, whether we're black, white, whatever color, have a strong faith in God and a belief in strong family
I think
units.
we're losing a lot of that. I need to get your brother David on
Well,
this.
and you can attribute a lot of that to communist China working with Mexican drug cartels that
and
are
a lot
running
of
their
it to our
fentanyl.
Democratic counterparts also.
To what?
To some of our Democrats, COVID, a lot of people stopped going to church. I think now, what is it? It used to be like 65, 75 people believed in God in America. They did a study, and it was in the 40s. It was in the 40% who really believe in God. And you have so many, Obama didn't, and I'm not saying this as a prejudice thing, all the Muslim people, all the people that came in here who hate us, did they integrate into our society, or do they still have their own conclaves that they live in?
Their own thing.
That's right. They do their own thing. You take Vietnamese people, us as slaves, we integrated into the society when we were free, right? People who want Mexicans integrate into the society somewhere. But when you look at a lot of Middle Easterners, they do not integrate into this society. I did a show with a Muslim and a rabbi. I did a series with them on religion. And that Muslim told me, this was 5 years, and he said, you just wait and see what we do in this country. And we're seeing what they do in this country. Anti-Israel, pro-Palestine, kill the Jew, Zionist, all of that. Those are, a lot of them are paid, but a lot of those people, they found that 50% were not on college campuses. They were not students in the college
absolutely.
campus.
They're being paid to
That's
protest.
right. Just like the Black Lives Matter campaigns were paid. George Soros funds a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that religion has a problem here. We are so diverse now that, Muslims is the second largest religion in the world next to, and it's not that much under our religion, the belief in God religion, the Christian religion. So I think that's the first thing to me. They go after the kids, as Stalin said, get the kids and you take over the world. And then they want to take us away from God. When you take those things, you've done a lot, right? When they took the Pledge of Allegiance even out of the schools, that should have never come out of the schools. You just left Europe. I was in Turkey about 8 years ago, and I tell you, I've never seen so many American flags in my life. I mean, Turkish flags. You don't, this building, that building, they're going to have 3 or 4 in every building. Have you been to Turkey? Did you see? I had never seen so many before, and I've traveled a lot with IBM and on vacations. And to me, that shows your patriotism. They let people tear down our flag and wrap it around George Washington and then put paint on it. That's insane. And some young white college guys went and took that off of the statue of George Washington. People have no respect for our history. I don't think they do, a lot of people. Do you ever?
Well, that's by design.
Yes.
That's what the Communist Party has done. They've
this
tried
country.
to wipe out our founding fathers' history.
Right.
They don't want us to know the history of how we were founded.
That's right.
They don't want to wipe that completely clean, and that's why so many young people today, unfortunately, don't know the founding fathers' philosophies. They don't know who came to this country and why. They don't know that 54 people that signed the Declaration of Independence were pastors. They don't know that Harvard and Dartmouth and Yale were founded as Christian universities.
Yes.
They've tried to wipe that out. And we've got to get back to our roots and get everybody back to knowing how this country was founded and why.
And that's the key. We're getting off of oil and gas a lot, but the country, if there's no country, it won't matter about oil and gas
You got
or
it.
about EVs or anything else.
That's right.
That's why, and as I told you, I did a documentary that won 2 awards last year, the National Whistleblowers, People's Choice, and then at the African American Women in Cinema in New York, on the Silver Dollar Group of the Klan, which was a Klan out of Louisiana, Mississippi, mostly Louisiana, the Faraday area. And the guy who wrote a book on it, Stanley Nelson, he's a Pulitzer Prize nominated book about this. But in doing that documentary, when I did the documentary, I took it as a point of, we have a long way to go, but my God, we've come a long way from where we were. And nothing's perfect. Those people that are coming here are not coming for nothing. We are still the best country in the world to live in. Now, one of the problems, in fact, even the Cuban that I interviewed said this, a lot of people come for the money. He said when he was there 2 years in the remaining Mexico, behind the Mexican border, he said fentanyl, rapes, trafficking, and people who just come over here to do nothing. 181 countries are coming into this country,
That's right.
including 25,000 Chinese nationalists the last 6 months into America. And every one of those people, China sent them here because China does not let one person leave without knowing who they are, right, and where they're going. So what do you think about that, man?
I think that we've allowed our own demise.
Right.
I think we've funded our own destruction. I think that if we don't come together as a country, we won't have a country to come together in.